Hi, this is Ramona for OutOfThisBinary, and this week we are talking about non-binary oppression and privilege. And like Beyond said in their video, oppression is not a competition. It is not something to outdo one another with. It is just something who that people who are oppressed have to deal with, and it's how our batshit crazy society is set up. Yeah, so just to get that out there before starting the video, kind of. So my privilege as a non-binary person, I don't know, I don't technically know if non-binary people really have privilege, or a specific privilege over like a binary trans person or something like that. I personally have a privilege being a white non-binary person, and that's just a way how gender and race, they intersect, just like a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know if non-binary people technically have their own privilege. And I was talking to a friend about this, and they said that people, like, say you come out to a friend as non-binary, and they don't really understand it, and they don't see you as really trans, um, and that could also that could lead to not being ridiculed as much or something like that, because they could think it's a phase or something like that, because they don't understand not being a binary. And they said that that could technically be a privilege, and when I thought about that, it made sense, and I've experienced that for sure. But I think that could also be a disprivilege, because they're not seeing you as you identify it, and maybe not using your name or not using your pronouns. And that's definitely a disprivilege when no one is seeing you as your gender and validating it. And that's just, I thought it was very interesting that they could see it as a privilege, and that many people can see different privileges and disprivileges and how it affects them. Just like I said, I'm a white non-binary person. That's a big privilege in this world. And I recognize my privilege. I'm still learning about my privilege. And yeah, so I think, yeah, that's all I have to say about the privilege. No, when it comes to oppression, I think non-binary people definitely face a lot of oppression. But like I said, it is not in any way a competition. A binary trans person's oppression is equally as bad and equally as valid as a non-binary trans person, and a black trans person, and a Latino trans person. Every trans non-binary person, their oppression is valid and real. And some oppressions that I have faced is how non-binary people are essentially invisible to the government. It's basically not seen as a thing. We're basically put into boxes and put, legally I'm male, and, legally someone else could be female, and stuff like that. Bathrooms as well, that's a huge issue. We don't have bathrooms. My school, they didn't have any gender-neutral bathrooms, which sucked, but I was given the right to use it was like a single bathroom, but it still said male or female, but they were just single bathrooms, and I was allowed to use those. But, bathrooms are such a huge thing for trans people, and non-binary people. It's, I don't think it's worse for either binary, trans people, or non-binary people, but as a non-binary person, I definitely just want a separate bathroom from man and woman. Although I personally do use the women's restroom, especially when I'm presenting more feminine. But, sometimes I can get looks. Nothing is really said to me ever. But bathrooms are just such a huge issue. And, binary trans people, they definitely have it bad as well. They could definitely just not pass, which is an awful, passing is something I'll get into. Passing is just toxic, but they could not pass and get, be labeled as just like a woman in the man's restroom, or a man trying to like sneak a peek at a woman, which is disgusting and just awful that people think that. And just, yeah, I could go on forever about bathrooms, but I won't. And then when it comes to passing, like I said, that's so toxic. And it's just, I don't pass as a woman. And in society's standpoint and their viewpoint, and, I'd like to pass as a woman, how society sees women, but I know that passing isn't everything, and passing is not the world. And I'm fine right now being kind of masculine, although, I'd like to be feminine, but just to pass more, just because that's how society works. But, everyone passes and doesn't pass. There's definitely people who do pass, which are lucky them, and then there's people who don't pass, which sucks, even though it shouldn't suck. And that's the whole issue with passing that I'm trying to get to, is that there just shouldn't be an issue with not passing, and that was such a long explanation for what I was trying to say. But yeah, and then another oppression slash disprivilege that I've definitely faced was not being trans enough. Because when I first heard about being non-binary, and I actually first heard about being agender, that was the first time I ever heard anything outside of transgender woman or transgender male. I was confused about it, and then soon I started doing research, and I started identifying that way, and I didn't see myself as trans enough because people are just oblivious that genders exist outside man and woman. And a lot of binary trans people have told me that, especially during me discovering my gender identity, that I wasn't trans and that I was just getting attention, which is awful. That's an awful, awful thing to say to anyone who is questioning their gender identity. And it's just a huge problem, not being trans enough, and it's definitely an internalized thing that people have who are non-binary, or even binary trans people think that. But yeah, this was a jumbled mess, and I'm so sorry about that. I'm very tired and I'm kind of sick, but of course, thank you for watching. I'm going to put a link to my Tumblr and our group Tumblr down in the description and stuff like that. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.